I wanted to show you how I built the t-shirts using Illustrator software. I'll later also include an introduction to Illustrator, but I thought I would just start off just to give you the basics of what I did to get the nice bright graphic t-shirts that were designed by your team. First of all, when I start Illustrator, I always start with the actual size of whatever I'm going to build. So as you can see here from the rulers, I'm working on a page that's almost 56 inches wide by 32 inches just to get a size of a t-shirt. Then what I did, I brought in the sketch, this original sketch. So I brought this into my environment, scanned it in so I could look at the design, okay? These lines here, what they represent is the actual size we can actually design to. So in other words, what's happening is we know that the page we're going to print to is going to be about 11 and a half by 8.5 by 11. That's going to be our print size. So these two, so I know I need to stay within these two lines when I do my design work, okay? So some of the things that helps, but I did this shirt and I didn't like this t-shirt. So I went on the internet and I downloaded a picture. Well, I know this was going to be for women's, that's right. So this was the men's shirt, okay? Again, I got this template off the internet, and then I wanted to do the ladies' shirt, but I didn't have a template. So I just simply downloaded a picture, okay, of the image, and what I did was I actually then created my own imagery. Now, how I did my outline, I'll show you here in some of the tools. So I brought in this, and then what I do over here in the corner, these are layers. So you bring in each layer. So as I'm clicking off here, you can see my cursor, I can click off and on the things I'm going to work on, okay? And now the finished work that I did, if I highlight all these, you'll see, I'll show you the final work that I had. This was the original concept that we talked about, and then we later went through and eliminated some of these pieces here, but we stayed with the major theme. This color swatch here, I brought off the internet to get the right colors for the Ethiopian flag. And this was, again, on the internet, on Wikipedia, I believe, on the flag part. So I was able to I just picked, once I got my shape, I could just actually pick that. And if you hear a little bit of moaning in the background, that's my grandson. So he's getting fed right now, okay? So this is the finished piece. This was the first piece, okay? Now how I built this, again, so I had the concept sketch, and that was that, and then went to this. These are my lines from here to here, which gave me, I knew within this area, in this line here, I created that line so I knew I could have 2 pages. But like I said, the final work changed. But I thought I just wanted to show you how I got to that design. So I'm going to turn off some of these things. And again, you can use this over here to kind of you pick and choose. So I'll start from the beginning. And I'll do another set. So here's my fashion that I want to create. Here's my sketch, okay? What I do is also I go in and I lock. You can lock these in, which was really helpful, which means you can't touch them. And then what I do, I recreate another folder or file on top of that. Let's see, here's my file. So here's my file, and you can move these around too. Okay, and again, what I said, I'm just going to show you how I did this project on the Illustrator software, and then I'll show you a basics of Illustrator introduction. So I've got all my layers are locked, which means I can't move them. And then I've got one layer open, which I can draw on. Now, what makes Illustrator really unique is the fact that it's referred to as a vector line. So here's my tools. Oop. I should probably show you the tools too, obviously. Let's do this. So these are my tools on the side over here. So on this one, I can use the pen tool, and I can create a line. So, and what I did, I just simply went around. And the way the vector tool works is if I start with one point, an anchor, and then on the second anchor, I hit my left key on my mouse, push down once, and then pull, and you get these anchor points that actually create flexibility. See that? So then I can come back up here, put another anchor here, and then go up to the top of this collar, and then pull it, and actually that's what gives it this form. And I hit return, and that stops it. Now, when I go back to my tools, if I hit the select tool, which is this arrow here, I can then go back and I can grab these anchors and I can move them around. See that? And then I can take this tool and swing this up. So that's how I created. So I basically did an outline of the existing shirt fashion off the internet, so I had a template. Now, how to make it bigger, you simply can grab the entire part with another select tool, and I can actually make these pieces bigger. This is what makes vectors so amazing, because no matter how small you start, ultimately it will actually, you can make any size you want, okay? So what we did, I'll delete that, or I can get rid of that page. And then, so that's how I got this. So when I look at this, let's see, this is this one. What I actually did was, this is actually, I hit shift, I actually went from this size, so I created it here, and then I got the size of a shirt, so I started with a smaller one, and then I simply increased the size of it to get back to that size here, see? And now there's two buttons. I can pick select tool that does the overall selection, like that. If I go back to my other select tool, I can go back to individual points like these, and I can change them anywhere I want to. Now within those lines, I can either just have the line or I can fill it full of a space. And that's another thing I'll show you in a minute. So that's basically how I set up my template to start with. Once I've got the template, I lock it in. I can then hide some of my other work. So at this point, I've got my sketch, I can hide that. So now I've got this sort of this pure shirt design I can work with. But I've locked it in, so I can't make a mistake and move it around, okay? Then what I did, simply to get the flower, what was interesting was, I really thought this was a great shape. So since, again, I can have any size I want, went back to my design tool. I created the flower. Oh, let's see, gotta get on here. Okay, so what I did, I created my flower here. Let's go back. Okay, so I've got my complete shape. Then I can go back in with my select tool and I can actually align these. Now, it has a smart tool function where it'll actually keep itself aligned. But part of the magic of art and design is that maybe it's not quite so perfect. So I've got this now in my my key here. This is my select area. I can actually collect the color. So what I did was, this is the outside line. I double click on the line tool and I picked, well, actually, let's go back to the, let's see, where is the, you can pick a color. But what I did, I actually picked since I wanted to be somewhat true to the Ethiopian. There we go. So what I did, I went ahead and picked this color here. So in my color selection, you can pick the color you want. So here I actually went to this color. Well, yeah, so I can, let's see. Yeah. So basically I can use these as the color. So this is how I created these images here. So what I'm going to do, turn this off, because I'm just demonstrating just the basic function of how I got there. So here's the flower petal. I could pick a color here, and then I can actually increase the stroke path. This is considered a stroke. So by going up here, I actually can increase the thickness of that outside line. See that? So that's my line, my outside line, and I can pick whatever size I want. And then on the inside, I can pick an inside function. It's the same thing. I can actually get in here, double click the inside color. I think I changed it to more of a yellow. Yeah, there's my inside color. So all I did was I simply used my vector lines, created a shape that I wanted. The line itself can be have a stroke path to give it a color and a thickness, as well as the internal. So now I've got my petal. Now, the fun part of Illustrator is, and this is how I get that nice vibrant color. Now, if I want to make another petal, all I have to do, this is now at a 90 degrees, this is going straight up and down. If I copy and paste another one, I can actually take the tool and turn it using a shift key. It'll go to a 90 here. So I can actually take this and do this. Or I can also put these two together, copy, paste, and then bring it back around to about 180. And then put this together here. So that's how I kept my accuracy. And this could be just a little bit like that there, closer to that. There we go. So there's my accuracy. So that's how I got the petals, okay? And that's how they're so accurate. So it's only one petal, basically here, and I simply multiplied it and turned it into this 4 petals, okay? Now, to get this, the part in the middle, let's see, I think I got this part here. Yeah, there was no center. Yeah, there's it. Okay. So you can add more layers to it. You can add more things on top of it. So I've got this. Okay. So that's pretty much how I did. Then once you get this, you can select into one large pattern, hit the shift key, and then I can actually make these. So what I did this became one, copy and paste, made it a little bigger. Copy and paste, made another bigger one. This one, like that. So that's essentially the concept. And then you can group these. So if I do this and this, pick these all together, there's a function where I can actually object and then make them into one group so they're solid. So anytime I touch it, it basically will always go back to this. And then if you see this little character here, little dots around it, that means I can actually move it around. So that gives me, so I've got this template for my shirt based on an actual size. I had those guidelines in here. And then I have my ruler up here, which actually tells me how big this part should be. And that's basically how I did it. Then from that point, again, it was basically adding, let's say the colors to the bottom piece here. I used the base of green. And again, these are the lines. So if I went back in here and picked these lines, See that? There's my line. So I picked a shape wherever I needed that, okay? I then added on top of that the red, and then on top of this, or I added a stripe in the side there. So this is how I created the, again, I used the colors here to make sure I had the right colors, created the graphics. Using the vector tools, I can move these around anywhere I wanted to. And with the layers, I can actually just add them sort of this one on top of this one, okay? And then for the words, I went into, we have a text function, and I can write over here, and I always number my stuff as well. Let's see if I do it as a text function, just like you would have in Microsoft Word, or if I write, there's my font. Let's see, there's the, oh, there it is over here. So I can create any size I want. There we go. So I create the size over here. Okay, and then I can actually, just like in a Word document, I can go back up and I can change, you know, the letters that I want. And then, of course, I can add a color. And then the function, this wavy line that you see here, was simply one of the effects where I went into distort form. Let's see, make sure I got this on. Click this. And on under effects, let's see, I can shape, rectangle. This gives me all kinds of really neat things. This is a free distort. So I can actually have a window here, and I can actually move, let's see here, move these letters around in these windows. I could have done something like this. See, I could have done that. Or if this one, I wanted more of a flow, so it flows with this. So I went into the effects and a distort, I think it was a free distort or path distort. Anyway, you can get in here and actually just then start developing your own styles of where you want these things to look like. So it's a very unique, very powerful tool. So that, in a sense, is how I created these t-shirts, okay? And then with the vector lines, again, it creates and keeps these very, very bright colors and your line work. And then after I'm done, I can always go back in if I wanted to change it. I can go back in, like, so as we went through the different styles of, you know, so I produced a number. This is A1, this was the first one, okay? And then as I went into different variations of these, I could then actually go in here and pick and choose parts that I wanted to keep. I could delete, in fact, and so then we just did variations based off this first one. So that's the basic how I made the t-shirt. I'm also going to include now an introduction to Illustrator software if you're not already familiar with the Illustrator process.